So this is my audience, and this is the visual aid that I will be using. Hello everyone, my name is Geraldine Boyle, and I'm here today to speak about endangered species. I hope to inform you all about what being endangered truly means for these species, as well as introduce you to and raise awareness for 3 specific species that are currently endangered. So I wanted to begin my speech today with a statistic that kind of blew my mind. As stated in the IUCN, or International Union for the Conservation of Nature's Red List of Threatened Species, there are 1.5 million species that inhabit our planet. And out of these 1.5 million species, there are 16,000 that are currently endangered.
Wow.
Ranging from the Sumatran elephants in the Asian continent to the sea otters in the Pacific Ocean to the multitude of coral species that live in the Great Barrier Reef. All 3 of these species have one major thing in common, and that is that they are a part of that crazy statistic. They are just 3 out of the 16,000 that are currently endangered. And if we look at my PowerPoint presentation here, it actually shows the IUCN's number of threatened species. And if we look, there's a gray area here, and it shows from 2006 to 2018 the amount of different species that continue to be threatened. And in 2006, there was 7,000 of the other category, which is like coral reefs. And in 2018, there's now 13,000. And over the years, you can see the blue, there are more and more fish species that have become threatened. Now, mammals have pretty much had a steady rate, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be concerned. So, what exactly is an endangered species? Well, an endangered species can be a plant or an animal whose population is diminishing at a rate that is putting them at risk of extinction. According to the World Wildlife Fund, there are 3 categories used to establish the status of a species. The category will depend on the level of threat that they face. The first category is vulnerable, the second is endangered, and the third is critically endangered. There are many factors that can lead to the population decline in a species. Many of these factors happen to be anthropogenic causes, or in other words, caused by humans. A few examples of anthropogenic causes are pollution, deforestation due to illegal logging or to build more urban areas, and habitat and hunting for sport or for the illegal pet trade. The other major factor is climate change, or more specifically, global warming. Global warming can be detrimental because it can impact ecosystems quite quickly. Global warming can cause the polar ice caps to melt, which will increase sea level, and it can also warm our ocean waters, which ultimately disrupts sea life. Global warming also causes an increase in the carbon levels in the water, which causes water to become more acidic, which can kill certain organisms within those ecosystems. So my goal for today is to inform you all about 3 specific species: the Sumatran elephant, the sea otters, and the multitude of coral species in the Great Barrier Reef. And I want to emphasize what makes them important for our biodiversity, as well as highlight the factors that affect them individually. So the first species is the Sumatran elephants. And the Sumatran elephant status is currently critically endangered, with their population of being less than 3,000. From 1985 to current day, their population has declined by 50%. That is half of their population in just under 30 years. Sumatran elephants are found in low-lying forests in Indonesia, which means that their number 1 threat is deforestation. This deforestation causes them to lose their habitat, which can lead them to human territory. And if we look at my picture here, you can see these elephants are in a human area, and it's very dangerous for them. And not only that, they are victims of illegal poaching for their ivory tusks. So why do we care if they're endangered? Why are they important? Well, every species has a specific role within their own ecosystem, and the Sumatran elephants are no different. They actually consume so many plants and fruits that they are able to disperse the seeds throughout the forest, which kind of ensures that future plants and fruits will grow as a food source for not only the Sumatran elephants, but also other species within that ecosystem. So the next species are the sea otters, and the sea otters are currently endangered, with their population also being around 3,000 left in the wild. Sea otters' number one threat is pollution, such as oil spills, and you can see in this picture the sea otter is covered in oil, as well as pollution from accidental plastic consumption from the pollution in the waters. So sea otters are unique because they're considered a keystone species, and as stated in an article published by the University of California Press, a keystone species is crucial to maintaining organization and diversity within ecological communities. So what do the sea otters do exactly? They feed on sea urchins, which is important because it helps to regulate the population of sea urchins, because if there were too many, they would devour all of the kelp forests. And kelp forests are important because they are filled with nutrients and they fight against the carbon within the water, which leads me to my next point. Sea otters allow carbon-fighting plants to be restored, and this helps aid in the fight against climate change because they're absorbing the carbon dioxide within the water. So the final species that I'm going to talk about today are the coral species, and I found it interesting that the endangerment of this species was such a problem that they actually had to put 66 different coral species under a Protection Act. So climate change is the number one threat for coral reefs because the warming temperatures of the water affect the coral because they are not meant to withstand high temperatures. And when these high temperatures occur, they begin to freak out and coral bleaching can occur. And when coral bleaching occurs, they kind of get weaker, and then they're more susceptible to dying off. And pollution from pesticide runoff from agricultural lands also harms the coral reefs. So corals are very important because they provide 25% of support for marine life, even though they only take up 0.1% of water. They provide a shelter, protection, they act as a water filtration system, and they're also known as a food source because humans know that if they go to the coral reefs, they'll be able to find a plethora of fish. So now that you have learned about 3 specific endangered species, I hope that you have established a connection and that you recognize the threat that biodiversity is facing. If the species continue to diminish at this rate, we will all be affected. According to a record published by the UN, more species than ever before in human history are threatened with extinction. Being informed is the most important part because that is when change can begin. And it's only a matter of time if we continue at this rate that the endangered species will become extinct, and once they do, we will not be able to get them back. Thank you. I forgot to show that photo.